Last week I was inspired to recreate the Tanglewood Drive map from Phasmophobia in Scrap Mechanic as a hide-and-seek map. I was lucky enough to have Khan Gaming and friends play the map, and Khan said that he liked the buttons and logic to open spots instead of switches. So I am here today to share with you the logic setup I used to make the spots work to make your hide-and-seek maps Khan approved. Here behind the scenes of the Tanglewood map, you can see a whole load of logic gates that probably don't make a lot of sense. But if I look at the logic for one spot on its own, you can see that there are actually 3 sets of 3 logic gates. The first 2 are what I call impersonalization, and the third is a memory bit. But it's all built quite compact here, so let me spread it out. The first 3 gates are 1 NOR gate and 2 AND gates. Both buttons go into the NOR gate, which goes into the AND gates, along with 1 button each. What this does is take the input button press and turn it into a pulse of a single tick. The AND gates are only active while the button is pressed, and the inverse of that from the NOR gate hasn't reached it yet, because the inverse signal takes 1 tick longer to reach the AND gate. This means that no matter how long the button presses, only 1 tick of input is taken every time. While building this mock-up, I did realise a minor flaw with this setup if someone holds a button down, but I'll come back to that. The next 3 are all OR gates. Each takes an input from both of the AND gates and the previous OR gate. So the first goes into the second, and the second goes into the third. What this does is simply extends the pulse from 1 tick to 3 ticks, because a 1 tick pulse would break the memory bit. If you have delved into logic before, you probably recognise the third trio of logic gates, because we have a standard memory bit. The first gate is an XOR, and the other 2 don't matter, they just feed the XOR back into itself. If you know how to blueprint edit, you wouldn't need all 3 logic gates, and you would only need as many gates in the pulse extender as you have in the memory bit. Final output can then be taken from any of the gates in the memory bit. Just don't leave it on when you save the challenge, because when you load back in, it will glitch itself out. This setup is very versatile and can be used for anything that you want to have toggled by buttons like lights, doors, or moving things. If you only want 1 input button, you can get rid of one of the AND gates at the start, and if you want more than 2 buttons, you can just add more and connect it up like the first 2. But what about that flaw I mentioned? Basically, I simplified things a bit too much, because if someone holds the button down, the first NOR gate stays off, which means that neither of the AND gates can activate, and if then someone presses the other button, it should activate and send the pulse, but it can't. The solution to this is to simply not share the OR gate, but to have 1 for each side, like this. In my endeavours to keep it simple, I just went a bit far, but for some applications the button being held down may not be an issue, and this solution may not be relevant. Regardless, I hope you now understand how to make your hiding spots activated by buttons rather than switches, so that you can get that Khan approval.